Hey, I'm talking to you. It's time to go take a break. Go take a break with Valley CAD, right? Go get your favorite cup of coffee or tea. Let's go learn something cool in SolidWorks, learn something new. Come on, let's go. I'll see you over there. Hey there, welcome to SolidWorks. Now that I got your attention, right? Hey, it's okay, take a break just a couple times here, right? What we're gonna be working through today is called the Sketch Segment tool. Now this was introduced in SolidWorks 2016 and it is seriously one of my favorite sketching tools ever. This is such an awesome concept of being able to make patterns quickly and easily. So we're gonna come in and I'm gonna make a simple plate that's just gonna be a simple square extrusion basically. And with that, I'm gonna come from my front plane, create a new sketch from there, and we'll just simply make a rectangle, okay? Or a square, whichever one we want to do, depending on my dimensioning scheme, right? So let's simply make this so it's 5 inches. And you know what? Let's make it so it's a square. So we'll just make that 5 inches. But if we learned about equations, right? Let's say I always want these things to be equal to each other. Well, I could say, hey, let's make that dimension always equal this dimension. Or I could easily just come in and say, hey, this line and that line be equal to each other. That will also make it so that it'll always be squares. So if I change this 5 to a 10, guess what? It'll update that other line for me too. So come in utilizing relations as much as possible is an awesome technique to use as well. So after we got that set up, we're gonna come up to features and we're gonna say extruded boss base, and we'll just simply make this so it's 1/4 inch thick. Doesn't really matter because what we're working through is the segment tool. All right, so now that we got that set up, the segment tool. How this works is that SolidWorks will come in and it'll either take circles or lines, and then it'll either segment it with points, equidistant points, or it will segment that entity into multiple entities based off of what you want it to do. So coming back in here, I'm going to utilize my front face here and create a new sketch. On here, since I use the segment tool so much, I've actually added it to my command ribbon across the top. If you don't know about this, if you look in the top right corner, you see on my screen it says search commands here. Typically it's set up for like SolidWorks help, but if you want to, you can push the letter W on your keyboard and now actually activate the search commands for you. And with that, you could start typing in segment. Now you'll see here, I am in a sketch and I know it's because my origin's red and also my confirmation corner is available up here in the top right corner. But segment seems to be grayed out a little bit. Well, the reason is because you actually have to have entities in your sketch before the segment tool. So we'll just simply do that now. Let's say I come in here and I draw a center line and I want to draw it from this point to that point. Now watch what happens when I start the segment tool again. You'll notice here that it's not grayed out anymore. So as I stated, I use it quite often. And so I've added it to my command ribbon across the top there. Or you can also use the term command manager across the top. If you want to add a feature quickly to your command ribbon, you can simply click and drag and drop. Now, if you accidentally duplicated it or anything like that, it's really easy. You just hold down Alt, click on that feature that you might have dragged on there, and just simply drag off. You'll see a red X show up next to your cursor, or I should say a white X, red square. Let go, and it's done. All right, so now we got that set up. What we want to do is activate the segment tool. So segment, what this is going to ask us to do is specify an entity that we want to segment out. So right now you could say, hey, well, you got that center line. Let's just go ahead and click on that. You'll see there, SolidWorks comes in and it puts 5 points on there for me. Now with those 5 points, these points are actually equidistant to each other. And equidistant means that they are all coincident. These points will all be coincident on that line, but also they'll be equally spaced on it as well. So if that's set up there, I can just simply say okay to that, and you'll see that I have these 5 points show up. Done. Now, why is this such a useful tool? Well, you could use this for using a sketch-driven pattern. Right, I don't know if you know about sketch-driven patterns, but you will learn about it here in a couple minutes as well. Let's go ahead and come in and let's do another segment. So I'm going to simply do a line command like so, and just simply drop it off to the side. Now, let's go ahead and make this one so that's going to be 10 inches as well. It's arbitrary number, I'm just doing it so I can fully define my sketch. We'll come in and do a segment tool again, and we'll simply click on that, and you'll notice how it has 5 again. But look what happens when I increase or decrease it. You'll see that SOLIDWORKS will come in, and so I have 8 points right now. SOLIDWORKS is coming in, it's adding those 8 points equidistant along that line. Now look what happens when I switch this to a sketch segment. You'll now see that I only have 7 points, because what SOLIDWORKS is going to do here instead is it'll take this one entity and split it up into 8 separate entities. So with the segment set up there, I'll just simply say okay. And you'll see here that instead of having 1 line, I now have 8 lines. And you'll see here that by doing this, SOLIDWORKS also added a equal relation and a horizontal relation and a collinear relation, meaning that these guys are always going to be aligned with each other. Now, why is this a useful technique? Well, you could come in and say, hey, I want that line, this line, and this line. I want those 3 to be construction lines. Then from there, you can come in and make whatever shape you want to from that. And because I made it so that they're all equal to each other, because we use a segment tool, if I increase this 10 up to 20, you'll see that each of these lines will automatically update based off of your dimensioning scheme there. Pretty nifty. Now, the other thing to look at here is that you can do this with a circle as well. And this is when I tend to use it quite often. You know, have you ever done it where you looked at a car wheel and you'll see that it has a bolt pattern on it? Well, those typically use a bolt circle, okay? And so with that bolt circle, what it is saying is, hey, I need to put bolts along a diameter, and I need to be driven by a circle here. And so by having a circle set up like this, I can select segment again, and you'll see here that, hey, segment works. I can say, hey, let's do this in points, or we could do it in, break it up into individual items. Now, if I do it in points, and I'm going to decrease this back down to, let's say, 6. So let you know, when you do a segment tool and you do the point version, you'll notice how I only have 1 relation. That's an equidistant relation. If you right-click on any equidistant relation, it allows you to come in and say, edit segment points. So you can actually come in and you can increase or decrease your segments as needed there. Pretty nifty, huh? All right, so I'm going to come in here and we're just going to delete that circle and also delete this line that I drew off to the side like so. And we're going to say done to that. Now watch what's going to happen here. I'm going to use that existing sketch here, and I'm going to come in and use a hole wizard. And with that hole wizard, we'll just simply come in and we will drop that hole. You know what? Let's just have fun with it. Let's just put it so it's just in a random spot up here. You know, it's just there. Now, yes, normally I would come in and fully define this, but what I want to do is show you that this hole here, I can make it so it matches along and drops on every point that we see in that previous sketch. And how we're going to utilize that is a sketch-driven pattern. So patterns, we know about patterns under our features tab, and we normally see linear pattern. If we click on that drop down arrow, we have linear pattern, circular pattern, and mirror, we know the ones that we're used to, but the one I want to look at is a sketch-driven pattern. Sketch-driven pattern, how this works is it grabs an existing sketch, and wherever it sees a point or a node, it will drop that feature or body on that given location. So for this instance, I want that sketch. So you just simply click on it in your graphics area, or you can expand out your temporary design tree here, and you can select the sketch number 2 in this instance in that area as well. So in the next segment, I want to come in and put in my feature. So I just simply clicked on that in that little temporary design tree there. I could also come into my graphics area and click on it there as well. And as you do your segment sketch-driven pattern here, I should say, you'll see here that you can specify faces or bodies. And then you can also come in under your options. This propagate visual properties, geometry pattern, those are functions that we could look at in other examples. But the other thing I want to look at here is under your reference point. So right now it's set up as centroid. So what that'll do is it'll find the center of that feature and it'll just drop it in that given location. If you had a unique shape that you were working with, you can say selected point, and then what SOLIDWORKS will ask you to do is come in and click on a point and utilize that point to locate that feature or body or component. So in this scenario, I'm going to say centroid, click the green check mark, and you'll see that wherever a point was added, SOLIDWORKS will come in and drop a hole. Well, guess what? I'm going to come into sketch number 2 and edit this guy. And we'll come in, remember how I said you could right click on an existing equidistant relation and say edit segment points there. Let's increase this up to 6. Say okay to that. Get out my sketch here. You'll see that SOLIDWORKS will now add 6 holes for me. Pretty cool, huh? Now let's make this even more unique in aspect. If I double click on this plate and I say, hey, increase this plate up to 10.875. SOLIDWORKS will come in, and because we use a segment tool, SOLIDWORKS will automatically space those holes based off of those points equidistant along that center line that I drew. Now I could also come in here and say, hey, you know what, sketch number 2, let's go ahead and just use the point command, drop this guy wherever I want, like so, and simply say okay to that, get out of the sketch. Because I'm using an existing sketch to drive this pattern, and I said wherever it sees a point, SOLIDWORKS is going to drop that hole there. So that's coming in and utilizing the segment tool, and also coming in and doing a sketch-driven pattern. Come back next time and have fun watching something new as you take a break. By the way, if you enjoyed this video and other videos that we've been creating for you guys, please click the like button and also subscribe. And also, as I stated in a previous video, send us a coffee mug. Reach out to us, send us a coffee mug. We'll be happy to show that in a future Take a Break video. And other than that, have a great rest of the day and make sure you learn something new.